What is up, you guys? I'm back for another video on the channel. And if you're new to the channel, first off, if you just recently subscribed from my recent SML drama videos, I apologize that this is not one of them. So yeah, just apologizing for that. Hopefully, y'all stick around though still on the channel for other videos I do, because obviously I do other type of videos like this one, stuff about Sonic, other random stuff. I still do SML obviously, but I'm just putting that out there for the newer people who recently subscribed for my SMO drama stuff. Again, apologies that this isn't one of them. But yeah, anyway, let's get into the review. So as you guys know, recently I reviewed Sonic Movie 3, did a spoiler review on that about a week or two ago now. And I decided, you know what, I'm going to go back and review Sonic Movie 1, 2, and Knuckles, the TV show. So yeah, and I'm going to be doing it backwards, just because why not? Thought it'd be funny. So obviously today I'm reviewing Knuckles, and then I'm going to go review Sonic Movie 2 next, and then I'll be re-reviewing Sonic Movie 1, because I've not reviewed Knuckles before, so this is my first review on that, obviously. I reviewed Sonic Movie 2 back when it first came out, but that video got deleted when my channel got hacked, so that'll basically be a whole new review. And then Sonic Movie 1, my review on that is still up from when it first came out, so that'll be a full-on re-review. So yeah, but anyway, let's get into Knuckles. So Knuckles is the first show in the Sonic cinematic universe, or the Sonic movie universe, as most people would call it. And what do I think? It's not very good, honestly. In my opinion, at least. I know there's people that like this show, and if you do, that's cool. I respect that. But me personally, it's pretty disappointing. I mean, here's the thing. When I first watched the show, my first two viewings of the show, because I watched it like when the day it came out, and then I watched it again the day after with my dad. When I first watched it, I actually thought it was pretty solid. It was still my least favorite of the Sonic movie universe. But I still liked it. I've rewatched it once since then, and I feel like if I were to rewatch it again, I would dislike it even more. I wish I would like it even more, but no, I would dislike it even more, because, the more I watch the show and the more I think about it, the more I just dislike a lot of things in it. Starting off with some positives, I think episode 1 is definitely the best episode. I think it's actually a pretty good episode. It's a good start to the series. We get a lot of Knuckles in there. You get Sonic and Tails in there too, of course, which is pretty cool. We have like a 5-6 minutes scene with Wade at the bowling alley, which, yeah, you could say went on a little too long, to which, yeah, I'd say it probably did just a little bit, but it didn't mind me that much, especially since it was, setting up the main plot of the show. So I think that could have been cut down a little bit, but, I didn't mind it. Obviously we have Knuckles and Wade teaming up to go to a bowling tournament. That is a pro I'm going to give the show, is that I actually really like the dynamic between Knuckles and Wade. I think they actually play off each other very well. So I do like that. Let's see. I'm thinking about the episode specifically. The gun agents, the two two of the villains of the show, the gun agents were pretty solid, I think, in this episode. A little confused as to how they got the rings. My headcanon for that personally is that maybe when in Sonic Movie 2, when Sonic is on the snowy mountain and his rings fall over the cliff, my theory is that maybe Gun went over there and picked them up, and that's how they have them. Maybe that's just my headcanon for how they have them. But we got two rogue gun agents that are there to take Knuckles to give him to the main villain of the show, the Buyer, which, I have quite a bit I can't talk. I have quite a bit to say about him, who's supposed to be the main villain, by the way, but okay. Anyway, continuing on with this episode, one thing that definitely disappointed me was how they used the character of Kamek. I remember being pretty excited when I saw him in the trailer, because I was excited to see what they were going to do with him. And, the idea they had for him, him telling Knuckles, as a ghost, oh, since you've completed your quest to protect the Master Emerald, I'm going to give you a new one. I think that was smart. I find it really weird, though, that he's the one that tells Knuckles to go help Wade win a bowling tournament. it's just weird. I feel like it's kind of weird, especially since this is supposed to be a straight up ghost. It's not like, Knuckles is mind playing with him. Like, it's a straight up ghost, and he's telling Knuckles to go help Wade win a bowling tournament. It's just kind of weird, but okay, I guess. Knuckles and Wade head off to the bowling alley, which, it was pretty fun seeing them there. Knuckles throwing the bowling ball was funny. We get some backstory war with Wade and his dad. They make like a TJ Maxx joke. That was fine. Then the gun agents show up, and then we get a pretty cool fight scene actually with Knuckles and the gun agents. They're fighting, it's going pretty well. Obviously, Knuckles then gets kidnapped by them, to which Wade decides to go rescue Knuckles. Again, I think it's a good start to the series. I like the characters in here quite a lot. Again, I don't really like how Pagacamek was used here, and this episode had the buyer, which I'm going to rant about later. But I think besides those two things mainly, and obviously the first scene with Wade, I feel like went on a tad bit too long. But aside from those, I liked everything else about this episode, so I thought it was a pretty good start. Episode 2, I think is also good. I think it's definitely the second best episode of the show. I actually really like the I Need a Hero scene with Wade. I thought that was actually pretty fun to watch. Knuckles is basically in a cage the whole episode, which is fine. We still get quite a bit of scenes with him and the gun agents talking. Wade then obviously comes to rescue Knuckles. Doesn't go super well. I mean, it kind of does, but not the way he pictured it. Him and Kid Cudi's character are fighting, which, by the way, I think you could tell how much Kid Cudi was having fun in the role, which I thought was funny to watch, just seeing him have a lot of fun, playing the character. So that was happening. They have his mom calls as a joke in the scene, which was fine, I guess. Anyway, Wade eventually, takes him down. He takes down the girl agent. I don't even remember her name. He saves Knuckles. They make it out of there alive with Knuckles gliding for the first time in this universe. So that was pretty cool to see. Then they find out that Wade has a bounty on his head that I'm guessing the gun agents put on him. That's my guess. I don't remember. Did they say who did? I don't think they did. They just said, Wade, there's a bounty out for Wade Whipple. They didn't say who it was, but I'm sure it was the gun agents, obviously. Then they make their way to Wade's mom's house, which, yeah. Anyway, again, about episode 2. Again, I think it was pretty good. Definitely the second best episode of the show. As far as any problems I have with it, I feel like maybe some of the scenes with Knuckles and I feel like the one scene with Knuckles and the lady gun agent talking was a little dragged, a little too long, just a teensy tiny bit. And then I felt like Wade was just kind of being an idiot when he was fighting Kid Cudi. He wasn't actually he wasn't even throwing punches. I don't even know what that was, but he wasn't he had a glove, but he wasn't throwing a punch. He was just like all scared. I don't know. Thought that was kind of dumb, but still, I liked it. Pretty solid episode. Moving on to episode 3. So we get introduced to Wade's mother, and then we also get introduced to Wade's sister, Wanda, who is by far the worst character in the Sonic movie universe. I don't know about worse. There's probably been worse minor characters in this universe, but she's down there with them. She's really annoying. Her and Wade's relationship with each other is really weird and toxic. There's something at the dinner table scene which I'll get into. But he introduces them to Knuckles, all that. They have a Shabbat dinner, to which this scene goes on for 10 or 15 minutes, which is insane. Yes, I get the point of TV shows is to be able to have more time with certain with plot lines, characters, and all that. But still, this scene went on way too long. I feel like it was just 10 to 15 minutes of Wade and Wanda bickering with each other. Knuckles just kind of being there, eating, and it was so weird because towards the end, Wanda literally stabs Wade with a fork in the shoulder. It's just so weird. It's like I get this is supposed to be funny, but it's like what? And then Wade understandably decides to leave, and then his mom's like, "Oh yeah, of course, just leave. Just leave like you always do." Like, he just got stabbed with a fork in the shoulder. What are you talking about? I don't know. But yeah, that scene finally ends, and then he goes to his childhood bedroom. Wade introduces Knuckles to music, which, well, he did in the first episode, but like a music thing he had. I forgot what it was, but it was like a music thing he had. So that was solid. They make a certain joke with this girl's standee, whatever thing, and how there's white marks over it. All right. Then again, they also made like a Holocaust joke at the dinner scene, so I don't know. Then there's goons that show up because of the bounty on Wade's, or just on Wade. And we don't even know like if these are people working with the buyer. I'm gonna guess they're not. They're just random, thugs. That's just my guess though. They show up. We get another fight scene with Knuckles and Wade's mom, which I actually really liked. I like that fight scene, specifically the one with the one shot, like with the camera spinning in a circle in the kitchen. I thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, not a great episode. I will say at least it still had Knuckles. It was all about Wade, sure, but at least Knuckles was still there the entire episode. I'll give the episode that. Knuckles was still there the whole time. Episode 4. Okay. Now, I know a lot of people say this is the worst episode. I disagree. I do not think this is the worst episode. I think the main reason a lot of people think that is just because this is the first, episode where there's literally no Knuckles, which is a problem I have, is that Knuckles is only in here for, a total of 30 seconds. He's there at the very beginning and there at the very end, because Wade gets captured by his old friend from the first episode. He traps him in a cage, for the bounty award. Then Pekka goes inside Wade's head, and they do a musical thing explaining Knuckles' backstory, which I thought was kind of fun, but Knuckles' backstory, the way it was explained here, I wish they would have taken a little bit more seriously, because it actually sounded kind of cool, the fact that Knuckles fought Iblis. That's cool. Come on. I want to see that, and I want them to explore it in a more serious way. But it's in a musical, and they make a joke about Iblis being on the Facebook market. But still, it was a fine musical sequence regardless. Then after all that's done, guess what happens? Wade literally punches his way out of the cage like a full-on superhero. Just straight up, flies out of the cage and lands perfectly. It's like a superhero landing. It's what just happened? That just came out of nowhere, and then he never even addresses how that happened. And even his old friends how the hell did you do that? I was yeah, how did he do that? It was so weird. It's and again, I guess it's supposed to be funny, but it's just so wacky. I don't know. And I know this is fucking the Sonic movie universe, but come on. There's certain things I feel there are certain things they do that make things make sense, but I feel a lot of stuff in this show they just don't. So that happens. They have a fight off kind of like swords that ride towards each other on a bike or motorcycle. Wade cuts off his ponytail, the guy's ponytail, and then the guy runs away crying. And then Wade comes back with the guy's motorcycle, and then they head off to the bowling tournament with his family and Knuckles, obviously. Yeah, again, I don't think it's the worst episode personally, because here's the thing. Episode 3 was all about Wade, but it had Knuckles there at least. This episode, it didn't have Knuckles there, but at least it was basically about Knuckles the whole time, mostly, 80% of it. So yeah, and then episode 5, I think is the worst episode. I think this one is, because we get Wade and Knuckles, or we get Knuckles more specifically. We get him at the very beginning and at the very end, like episode 4. Because Knuckles just disappears throughout the middle portion of it, because we have to spend the whole time with Wade and his dad rebonding, and his dad is not a very interesting character himself. He's not as bad as Wanda, but he's also just very uninteresting. Then we get back to the gun agents that we haven't seen since episode 2. And then we also get back to the buyer, which we haven't seen since episode 1, who, again, is supposed to be the main villain. He's supposed to be the main villain of the whole show. You know, he's like, oh, you guys failed to bring me Knuckles. And the girl agent's like, oh, well, give us another chance. You know, I hate these aliens walking around Earth freely myself, which I think is actually a reasonable thing, like, for these guys to be rogue. At least for her. I don't know about Kid Cudi's character. He doesn't, like, say anything about it. He doesn't go like, oh, yeah, I agree. He's just kind of, you know, standing there. But I do think that's a good, like, reason for them to be rogue, is that they don't like these aliens just walking around Earth freely. That makes sense. I just wish they actually explore that more with them, and that we got more to do with the gun agents, the rogue gun agents, but whatever. Then the buyer's like, okay, I'll give you another chance, but this time you get no money. You get to live. Great. Then, yeah, we come back to the bowling tournament. Wade and his dad are bonding. It's so nice and wholesome. And then Wade's mom is like, oh, you know, he hurt me. Wade's like, well, I like him still, so whatever. And then, oh, wow, shocker, Wade's dad betrayed him. And the two rogue gun agents took Wade's mom, or holding Wade's mom and his sister hostage, to which they're pointing a gun at Wanda, by the way, to which Wade is like, oh, go ahead, do it. Yeah, no, do it. And then they point one to his mom. He's like, no. It's so weird. It's like you go back to episode 3 where she stabs him in the fork, or stabs him in the shoulder with a fork, and now we go here and she literally has like a gun pointed to her head, and he's just like, all right, go ahead. It's just such a weird relationship. You know, then we finally see Knuckles at the end. Wade's like, oh, you gotta go see something upstairs. Episode ends. Then we go on to episode 6, to which we start off with a very cool fight scene. Actually, it was a great start to the episode, because they reveal that Knuckles was wearing an AirPod and that he heard everything that happened upstairs. So we get a cool fight scene with Knuckles and the gun agents. Wade is there trying to save his mom and sister, to which his mom is, you know, accepting it. His sister is being an idiot, being like, no, I'll save myself, you know, and she tries like dislocating her thumb. Moving back to Knuckles, he's fighting them. They throw a ring at him, but then he punches it, and then they open up 2 rings, and then they both just get sucked in it, and then we don't see them again. I think implying that they died, maybe? I don't know. That was kind of funny, though, still. That was kind of funny. Anyway, so, yep, they're gone. Wade's family is saved. Wanda unties herself with a dislocated thumb, which was just disgusting to look at. Then we go back to Wade in the bowling tournament for, like, 20 minutes. We get, like, one scene of Knuckles, like, during it, but it's only, like, 30 seconds, and it's just him watching it on the TV. Then we go back to the bowling tournament again for another 5-10 minutes. Then we cut to Knuckles, like, hearing noise outside, that being the buyer in this big mech suit. Yeah, that's right, the buyer still exists. And him and Knuckles are fighting, or he's beating Knuckles' ass. Then we go back to the bowling tournament for like another 5 or 10 minutes until it's finally interrupted by Knuckles and Buyer. Knuckles is knocked out. The Buyer's like, oh, fuck you, Wade. You've been a big problem here. I'm gonna murder you. Wade's mom and sister show up and they give him like the gauntlets that the gun agents had, and the Buyer's just literally standing there watching this happen, not even like shooting at all of them. It's just okay. And then Wade starts throwing bowling balls at him, and Knuckles is knocked down. He's talking to him like, oh, Knuckles, this is your new home now. Like, you know, you have something to fight for. You know, your friends, your family, a new home. Because obviously that's been the whole thing with the show, is Knuckles. That's been like the whole like character arc for Knuckles in the show, is him accepting Earth as his new home. So he's telling him that. Knuckles wakes up and yells, "This is my home." To which I gotta say, that was just really rushed. It really doesn't feel like his arc was earned here. Because I mean, again, I love the idea of this arc. You know, Knuckles having to learn that Earth is his new home, that he has to, you know, live with it, you know, accept it as his new home. But like the fact that we barely get anything with him these last few episodes, and him just yelling that just feels really rushed and just it doesn't feel earned. Anyway, Knuckles then gets the flames of disaster. Funny meme, by the way. Then he takes out the buyer in just like under a minute, and he doesn't even like just knock him out. Him and Wade straight up murder him. They straight up murder him, which I just find funny because you go back to, Sonic movie 1, because this whole ending is very similar to the first Sonic movie, where Sonic is knocked out and, Tom's talking about Sonic being his friend, and then Sonic, wakes up, defeats Eggman by sending him to the Mushroom World. And I mean, sure, you could argue Sonic intentionally tried killing Eggman in movie 2 at the end by knocking his whole robot down. But I don't know. But yeah, Knuckles straight up murders him by throwing a bowling thing, whatever, on him. Then Wade's dad, tries stealing a trophy that Wade won from earlier. Then the mom and sister show up and they start beating him up. And then Wade and Knuckles is like, Knuckles is like, oh, you didn't. Wade's like, we did it. And then they do a high five, or about to do a high five freeze frame, and then that's it. It just ends. We don't get anything of them heading back home. Sonic and Tails maybe going like, oh, Knuckles, where did you go? We were worried about you, since Knuckles just disappeared, really. That was another thing. When Knuckles was kidnapped back in episode 2, why didn't Wade just call Sonic to help out? And yeah, I know people are gonna say because it's a Knuckles show. Yes, but I feel like you still gotta give a reasoning to it, as to why he couldn't call Sonic, but they didn't, so whatever. But yeah, then the series ends, but we get a end credit scene of Wade and Knuckles just riding a bike. I'm guessing going home, and the green screen in the scene looks terrible, by the way. The effects in the last episode really just don't look all that great. But then that is it. That's the end of the series. Yeah, definitely a disappointment because, it's like people have said, Knuckles is barely in it. It's like he's in it enough the first half of the series, but then by episode 4, 5, and 6, he just feels like he's not there. It really just becomes the Wade show, which I do like Wade. I want to point that out. I think Wade's a funny character in the movies. I think he's funny in the movies. I think he's great in those. But as a main character, he really does not work that well. So I think that was not a great decision there. But yeah, again, this show had some highlights, but for the most part, it was, again, the fight scene, all the fight scenes were pretty cool. I liked Knuckles and Wade's dynamic with each other. What else? Okay, some of the characters were fine. Obviously, I brought up, I know I said I wish the gut agents had more to do, but I still like them. I know I haven't even talked about the buyer. I forgot to talk about the buyer. The buyer is a terrible villain because he is barely in the show. He's only in episode 1, 5, and 6 for episode 1. Episode 1 is in for a minute. 5 is in for 3 minutes. Then 6 is in for 3 or 4 minutes. Also, it's ridiculous because he's supposed to be the main villain of the show, and he doesn't even have a real name, or they don't give him a real name. He's just called the buyer, which is stupid. But yeah, he's literally just a terrible villain. Just didn't do anything at all. Did not like him at all. Just I wish they would have done more with him because I think the actor did the best he could, but I don't know. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think Knuckles is a pretty disappointing show, and I hope that the next show they do, they definitely can improve on what they did wrong here, and that is obviously just focusing more on the human characters and not Knuckles himself. So I'm hoping for the next show they do that. And if they have obviously I'm sure they'll have a villain. If they have another villain there, actually make them the villain, not just for 4 or 5 minutes, But yeah, so if I had to rate Knuckles, probably a 2.5. I know it sounded like I was complaining a lot, but I really do like episode 1 quite a lot, and episode 2, and even episode 3 and 4, or more so 3 isn't terrible. It's really episode 5 I really do not like, and episode 6 to an extent. So yeah, but that's just my opinion. Let me know what you all think of Knuckles in the comments, and I'll see you all in the next video. Peace out.